Welcome to the third webinar of the Life Green Adapt project. This webinar is going to provide the latest results of the various technologies included within the Life Green Adapt project and the significance these results hold for the further development of the technologies before the project's conclusion in December 2025 and beyond the project itself. The technologies presented in this webinar will include Biotechnosoils, liquid stream technologies including Floating Treatment Wetlands, Aerated Vertical-Flow Treatment Wetlands with Geopolymers, and Electroactive Biofilm-based treatment wetlands, and finally, a vulnerability assessment tool for climate change resilient waste infrastructure. This webinar was recorded during the second innovation workshop of the project in partnership with our Project Innovation Board, held online in July 2025. The workshop was hosted by project partner ISLE Utilities. ISLE Utilities brings technologies to life. ISLE does this through its various flagship programs, working together alongside innovators to connect them with end users and potential investors. The innovation workshops ultimately promote the synergy between project innovators and experts in the water sector and relevant fields. The desired outcome of the first workshop was to cultivate relationships between project innovators and sectoral experts to help bolster the replication, transfer, and scaling of project technologies and also support their adaptability and market integration feasibility. This session started out with an introduction to the project from Luz Herrero Castilla of IMEN.
So thank you very much for being here with us and to give us advice or about what we are doing in this Life Green Adapt project. I will briefly explain the context of the project for you to remember to have a general overview of what is going on now. Blanca previously introduced the budget and the time framework in which the project is developing. This is a life climate change adaptation project. So the main objective of the project is to increase the resilience of the infrastructures such as landfills to the climate change effects. So please, if you can move forward. So that's why we joined as a consortium with different expertise to try to solve this challenge that we are facing with landfills in terms of climate adaptation. IMEN, there is the coordinator. We are located in the northwest part of Spain. We are a research center that is coordinating this project. We are working in, we have several profiles of partners with different expertise. IMEN, Aarhus University, and Limnos, we have the expertise on the treatment wetlands and nature-based solutions applied to this particular problem. Shilo Galicia, or with the short name Shiloga, is the owner of the landfill who has been involved in this project, bringing the space and to perform all these technologies. We are also working with a Polytechnic University of Catalonia, which is in charge of life cycle assessment and also to biological distribution in the nature-based solutions and clustering and networking. And we work with Global Factor, which is in charge of the risk assessment. And our colleague Florencia will later on explain deeply about the tools that they are designing to help us also to address this problem with a different focus. And finally, Blanca nicely explained before the role of ISLE in this project, so she did it perfectly. I'm not going to explain anything else. So please, next one. So which is the problem that we are facing? We have there are some animations, so please, Noah, if you could start with it. Okay, we have over 500,000 landfills currently in the European Union. Approximately, please, next. 80% are dedicated to the treatment of urban waste and 20% of industrial waste. And they have a very long lifespan, about 140 years. So these infrastructures, once they are closed, they stay there, and they have problems that they have to face regarding climate change. For example, we have to face extreme weather events that cause adverse effects on the landfills. For example, we can face droughts and heat waves that could cause fires, heavy rains causing an increase of the volume of the landfill leachates that could provoke landslides or even floods in these infrastructures. So that's why we're working, please, the next one, in trying to give a solution to this problem. After this, my colleague Álvaro will explain everything about at least part of the treatments, as well as our colleagues from Limnos. But the problem, the case study located in Xiloga, in the northwest of Spain. Xiloga is a landfill that is treating only industrial and inner waste. So there are, they don't have urban waste there. Some organic matter, but not so much. So they have a couple of ponds, one of them used to treat water runoff in the surrounding area, and another one to store the landfill leachate that they were treating with another solutions before this project. They have been retrofitted with different, and also has been additional constructed wetland treatments to treat all the runoff and the leachate. Next one, please. Okay, regarding, yeah, well, those are regarding the climate pattern that we can find in the area. This is, we are located in the site is located in the northwest part of Spain, when we have rainfall through all the year, but recently they are facing like episodes of high temperatures. So that means that the climate pattern is changing slowly, but we have data that confirms this trend. Next one. So what's the objective? So to try to use nature-based solutions or blue and green infrastructures to try to face this challenge. So we strongly believe that these kinds of solutions are good for this kind of problem, and that's what we are trying to show you during this session. Next one, please. Finally, to bring your attention about the concept, in the landfill, we are working in two different things. We are working with biotechnosoils, so it will be the green infrastructure that we are choosing, which are blends of different kind of waste according to a recipe that try to mimic a natural soil. So this is what will my colleague Álvaro explain a little bit later about the how Xiloga, that is the one in charge of these blends, is dealing with the biotechnosoil. And on the other hand, we are working with the landfill leachate and the stormwater or the water runoff, using different kind of treatment wetlands, mainly floating treatment wetlands in the landfill, in the leachate pond, but also in the storm, in the runoff pond, followed by Aerated Vertical-Flow Treatment Wetlands and Electroactive Biofilm-based treatment wetlands. All of these infrastructures dealing with the blue ones, dealing with leachate and the water runoff are interconnected, just in case that we need to change what we at the beginning thought that it would be the good treatment train. So the main goal after the treatment is for sure to comply with the legislation in place in the area, and also to try to be sure that that we can use this water or reduce this water for different purposes across the landfill. And we are, next one, please. We are not using only these technical solutions, but we are also doing some innovations on some tools regarding vulnerability risk assessment that our colleague Florencia will explain later. Also to bring to the operators of the landfills tools to evaluate the risk, to assess the vulnerability risk they are facing regarding climate change. She will explain later. So not only technical tools, but also different kind of tools that can be used also with this purpose. And all the activities that the project is doing regarding IP communication and dissemination, also Blanca introduced them before. One of these activities is properly this innovation workshop, and we are very happy to have you here. So thank you very much for your attention. I think more or less a time, a little bit more than expected. So final steps, we are facing the last 6 months of the project, so we're finishing experimentation, so to have more validation data that can show that our innovations are dealing with the problems that we're facing. Also working the life cycle cost and social impact studies, and finishing this kind of activities regarding dissemination and exploitation. And that's all. Thank you very much.
The next presentation was delivered on Biotechnosoils by Alvaro Silvaterra, also of IMIN, and serving as the project coordinator for Life Green Adapt. This presentation was given on behalf of project partner Chiloga, a waste management company based in Galicia, Spain.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you also for coming. Also, thank you for the other speakers for well introducing the project. And now I am going to put the focus on the technical part, okay? So, as my colleague Luz let you know, in Galicia, in the part of Spain we are located, now it rains differently than in the past. So, instead of raining more days, but with a lower amount of water, now it rains less days, but with a vast amount of water. And also the global temperature is rising. Due to that, it's needed to, let's say, propose another way for the management of our landfills. So how are we going to face this problem? So first, we are going to waterproof the landfill on the one hand in order to reduce the amount of produced leachate, and on the other hand, we are working on proposing new cost-effective wastewater treatments based on nature-based solutions. Next, please. So, as you can see on the screen, this is our problem. At the very beginning, we have a landfill and it is raining a lot onto it. So you can imagine that the situation is more or less than the one you can have in a bag of tea. If it is raining a lot onto it, we are going to create a lot of leachate. And also, if we have a higher temperature, the solubility will also increase. Next, please. So, how are we going to face this problem? Via two different approaches. On the one hand, via biotechnosoils, in order to prevent water, I mean capping the landfill, in order to prevent water going onto the holes of the landfill, and due to that, reducing the amount of buried dirt wastewater coming from this landfill. And on the other hand, we are going to also treat the leachate coming from the landfill with nature-based solutions, which are very cost-effective treatments for this kind of heavy polluted wastewater. Next, please. So first, I am going to put the focus on the biotechnosoils. The biotechnosoils, the green infrastructures, are, as I said, to prevent the percolation of the water throughout the landfill. So how to do that? First, we are going to put a geotextile and a waterproofing fabric in order to, let's say, reduce the amount of water going through the holes. And also, after that, we are going to add the biotechnosoils, our technical solution. I will go deeper in the detail later, in order to have the same vegetation than the one we have in that part of Galicia, and pretending to convert the landfill in another part of the beautiful landscape we already have there. Also, we have to, with the grass, we are going to grow onto the surface of the biotechnosoils. We are going to cap one fraction of water, and we are going to refresh the increasing global temperature. And due to that, we are going to decrease the risks of spontaneous wildfires. Next, please. So depicted on the screen, you can see the first part of, let's say, of capping or sealing our landfill. We are going to install, we have installed the geotextile in order to remove the humidity percolating through the holes. Please, next. And apart from that, we are going to go deeper into the biotechnosoils. These biotechnosoils are, let's say, a new material which is manufactured in order to pretend to be to have the same properties than the soil it has in that part of Galicia. So to do that, we are applying circular economy tools, because we are converting inorganic and organic wastes, such as, for instance, sand coming from a wastewater treatment plant, also sludge coming from a wastewater treatment plant, also wastes from food and beverage industries, also wastes from agriculture industry. Everything is going to be mixed in some in the proper fractions, and when the months pass, we are going to have this new stabilized material able to be installed onto the surface of the geotextile. Please, next. And as you can see on the screen now, people working on the manufacturation of this new biotechnosoil, and also installing that. Please, next. And you can see here in this screen the result of installing these newly developed materials. On the left, you can see the very beginning of the Life Green Adapt. The landfill without being even capped. In the middle, you can see our landfill sailed, and also with the biotechnosoils. And afterwards, we were able to grow some grass and some vegetation onto this biotechnosoil. And on the right, you can see the result, which is, let's say, converting this landfill in a new part of the beautiful landscape we have in the part of Galicia. Next, please. So here, this is the first of a kind biotechnosoil. As you can see here, it is already installed for more than 2 years, and it is growing new vegetation, and also many species of biodiversity are living on there. So
the following presentation was also delivered by Alvaro Silva Terra of IMIN, with contributions on floating treatment wetlands and electroactive biofilm-based treatment wetlands made on behalf of project partners Limnos and Aarhus University.
So now, in the past, let's say, I have explained how to reduce the amount of formed leachate, but now we are willing also to show you the technologies we are now developing in order to low-cost treat this very dangerous wastewater. So in this case, which ideas did we have in mind when designing this new solution? So first, we need low CapEx and OpEx technologies. Also, we have in mind that these kind of facilities are in rural areas, very far away from cities normally, so no trained personnel is available over there, so nobody, let's say, wants to be there a lot. So also we have to propose low maintenance strategies in order to reduce the stop times. So how to do that? Our proposal were the nature-based solutions for treating the leachate wastewater, and also to compete with other traditional technologies like reverse osmosis and this kind of stuff, which are very expensive. Please, next. So our approach, I am now showing the main flowchart. The first treatment is the flotation treatment wetland. I will go deeper into the detail in the upcoming slides. And a polishing step. In this case, we are trying 2 different treatments to assess which one is better for our particular case. So on the top, you can see the geopolymer aerated treatment wetland, and at the bottom, you can see the electroactive wetland. You can see on the screen that both treatments, both polishing treatments, are going to treat the same wastewater coming from the flotation treatment wetland. Please, next. So first, I am going to go to the flotation treatment wetland, a technology developed by Limnos in Slovenia. And in this technology, we are combining 3 different kind of, let's say, mechanisms. Physical mechanisms, as you can imagine, biological mechanisms due to the life activity of the plants, and also biochemical activity due to these kind of interactions between the 3 mechanisms, which in turn will be, let's say, enhanced due to the synergies among them. Please, next. And this is the first, let's say, complete treatment is composed by the flotation treatment wetland and the geopolymer aerated treatment wetland. Please, next. In which it is based on a newly developed material developed in the labs of IMEN, in which we were looking for electric activation of the raw materials very available in the area nearby the landfill. We were working a lot on the lab in order to activate this electricity on the surface and also to obtain a proper porosity for, let's say, reduce as much contaminants as we can. So, as you can imagine, this mechanism is based on the absorption of the pollution coming from the flotation treatment wetland onto the surface of our material, and is addressed to remove organic carbon, nutrients, and other contaminants. Please, next. So you can see depicted on the screen on the back, first the newly developed material in IMEN labs, and also how it was installed in our prototypes there in Shiloh. We already have 4 different chambers operating at the same time to assess not only the overall operation, but also we are willing to know if the aeration is required or not. Imagine the impact on the OPEX. Also, if the location of the material has to be inside of the reactor or can be as a bag in the reactor, we are assessing this kind of further information in order to scale the technologies up. Please, next. And you can see depicted on the screen the values of organic carbon we already have attained in our system. So the first observation I would like to share with you is, as you can see, the organic carbon concentration, the overall one, is decreasing within the time, meaning that we are seeing some, let's say, solving out of the organic carbon coming from the landfill. The second observation you can see on the series on blue, or I mean the difference in the series in red and in blue, is the removal due to the flotation treatment wetland, meaning that regarding organic carbon, we are removing a lot. I mean the 60% of the organic carbon in just the first treatment. And the second one is working as proposed as a polishing step in order to even decrease from, let's say, 1,500 milligrams per liter down to 300 milligrams of COD per liter. Please, next. Regarding nutrients, in this case, regarding nitrogen removal, you can see in this case that we were not able to observe a solving out of the nitrogen because it's more or less stable, the incoming concentration of both nitrate, the addition of nitrate and ammonium. Also, you can see more or less the same effect that the flotation treatment wetland is reducing a lot of nitrogen, but a lot is more than the 50–60%. And the upcoming treatment, in this case, the geopolymer aerated treatment wetland, is also able to polish the wastewater coming from the first treatment down from 1,500 milligrams per liter down to 400 milligrams per liter, more or less. Please, next. But what about phosphorus? In this case, the film is different. The story is different. In this case, the flotation treatment wetland is not able to remove a lot of phosphorus, but the polishing step is able to remove, let's say, more than the 50% of the phosphorus. So it means that this polishing step, if we want to reduce also phosphorus, can be useful also for us. So please, next. And now I am going to go to the combination of the flotation treatment wetland and electroactive wetland, okay? So the electroactive wetland is a technology which is Aarhus University in Denmark in charge of that. Please, next. And it is about a new electric field provoked by the difference between the oxidation reduction potential at the top of the film and on the bottom of the material we have installed in our reactor. So due to this difference and due to the difference of oxygen, we have a little and small electric stream is appearing and is able to continue depolluting the wastewater. Please, next. In this case, we only have a bit more than half a year of results because we were able to start it up at the very beginning of this year. But still, we have the preliminary, very good conclusions I want to share with you. So you can see, again, in terms of COD, in terms of organic carbon, the difference between the red and the blue dots is due to the flotation treatment wetland. But please take a look to the role of the electroactive wetland, which is able to reduce down to almost nothing the amount of organic carbon we are analyzing in the overall samples we have. Please, next. Regarding total nitrogen, we can see more or less the same. In this case, we have almost the overall amount of both nitrate and ammonia depleted. So we didn't observe a lot of nitrogen in the outlet of our stream. And what about phosphorus? Please, next. It's more or less the same. So far, this technology is very robust, but it is a problem. There is a problem in this case, the cost. Actually, we don't have the results of the life cost assessment yet. So in this case, the overall assessment requires not only technical parameters, but also holistic parameters such as the costs and such as the life cycle assessment in order to have the overall view of this technology, which the technical results, of course, are very, very promising. So please, next. And just for finishing, I would like to remark the first conclusions we already have nowadays, which and regarding the biotechnosoils, the combination of the geotextile and the biotechnosoils has been demonstrated as a very good tool for restoring our landfill there in Shiloga. Regarding the liquid phase, in this case, the flotation treatment wetland has been able to depollute more than the 50% of carbon and nutrients, and its combination with the geopolymer aerated treatment wetland is able to reduce the pollution, the incoming pollution, down to the 80%. And instead of the geopolymer aerated treatment wetland, if we have the electroactive wetland, we will be able even to increase the amount of contaminants reduced. So for us, are very important the life cycle assessment, the life cycle assessment and the life cost assessment in order to have the whole pictures and for assessing properly well our technology. And Nothing more from my side, and I am.
The final presentation of the innovation workshop was given by Florencia Lang of Factor, a Spanish engineering and consulting firm operating in domains including climate change, innovation, and sustainability. The presentation focused on a vulnerability assessment tool for climate change resilient waste infrastructure developed by Factor under the Life Green Adapt project.
Thank you so much. So today I will be presenting this vulnerability assessment tool for the climate change resilient waste infrastructure. Next one, please. To begin, I would like to briefly summarize what we have seen in the other presentations. So this Life Green Adapt project, as we have seen, aims to enhance the climate resilience of the waste infrastructure by demonstrating these two key solutions: the potential of the biotechnosoils to reduce the rainwater percolating the landfill, and also the nature-based solutions for treating the leachate wastewater. So next one. So building on this, the project demonstrates promising technological solutions, but raises not only one, but two significant questions. So the first one, how do we know that these interventions are reducing the climate risk? And moreover, how can we quantify the impact of the climate hazards and the effectiveness of the proposed solutions? So for this, and to address these questions, we have developed this tool that quantifies and illustrates the level of the climate risk before and after the implementation of the LIFE project. Next one. So it is important to emphasize that the risk assessment tool is grounded in the definition of risk provided by the IPCC. And this concept considers a risk as the interaction of three different components: the hazards, such as extreme weather events, for example, a fire or a flood, that are climate-related phenomena. Then we have the exposure, that refers to the presence of the infrastructure or systems that could be adversely affected for those hazards. And then we have the vulnerability, that is the result of another two components: the sensitivity, that shows us how susceptible the systems are to the damage, and the adaptive capacity, that this means the ability of the system to anticipate and recover from the different impacts. So this tool, it is important to understand that uses this framework and these concepts to structure the analysis and also to measure how the proposed solutions can reduce the overall climate risk. So now let's see a quick intuitive example. So let's imagine that we have a landfill, and this is going to be our system at risk. So first, the hazard in this case, as we can see on the pictures, could be extreme weather events such as flooding or heat waves. The exposure is going to be the landfill infrastructure itself, that is located in an area where those hazards may occur. And then we have the sensitivity component that, as I said before, this refers to how vulnerable the system is to those hazards. So in this case, the landfill has an all leachate containment system, and this makes it especially prone to failure during this extreme weather. And finally, we have the adaptive capacity, that is the ability of the system to cope with those hazards, that is really low. We don't have any drainage upgrades and no early warning system or emergency protocols. So of course that we can conclude that we are going to have a high risk. Next. And next, please. Okay. So taken together, sorry, the previous, these factors makes the site a high risk, as I said. And the takeaway here is that by improving the system's design, reducing the sensitivity and increasing the adaptive capacity, we can effectively reduce the overall climate risk. So moving forward, the pilot case is located in Asomosas in Galicia, and it was used to apply this vulnerability assessment tool. So the project implements this combination of these two kind of solutions, and what provides us the tool. This helps us to assess the level of the climate risk, considering fire and floods before and after the implementation of the proposed solutions. So stepping into the vulnerability tool, next. So this tool is going to serve us as a facilitator instrument to support the assessment of the climate risk. It is structured around a set of predefined hazards, indicators, and different evaluation criteria, and helps the users to analyze, not only analyze, but also to compare risk across different waste infrastructure scenarios. As you can see, it is structured in or organized in different tabs, from defining the scope of the project to inputting the data and analyzing the results before and after the implementation. Next one. So here we have the first tab. This is the project information. All of the relevant information about the project and the site is going to be applied here. And of course, this will depend of the type and of the availability of the information. Next one. And next one. Okay, so here we have the impact chain. That this is really, for me, this is a really important part of the tool, because this is a visual way that will help us to summarize the key climate risk components. But they are going to be tailored to the specific context of our project. So, for example, in this case, we have for the fire, the risk is the fire, and it shows how the different climate threats like heat waves or the low humidity can lead to the infrastructure damage, the economic losses, or even the threats to human health and biodiversity. Of course, depending on the system's sensitivity and its capacity to adapt or to respond. Now moving to the following section. Here we have the criteria. In this tab, we are going to select the indicators. And this section defines the specific indicators that we are going to use to assess each component of the climate risk. That, to remember, we have the hazards, the exposure, and the vulnerability. And each indicator is accompanied by detailed fields. We have the unit of measurement, the description, the assigned level of risk. We can also add some comments, and we have space to incorporate other indicators if it is needed. So the idea is to provide a flexible but a structured tool that ensures consistency while at the same time allowing for specific project adjustments. Next one. And next one. Okay, so in this step, what we are going to do is to provide the input values for each indicator. We are going to use the previous criteria tab as a reference, and the user should input all the values corresponding to each component of the climate risk. And these values should reflect two scenarios: the situation before and after the project. Next one. And next one. So here we have some examples of how we should include this kind of information for each of the components of the climate risk. Okay. Okay, so at this point, it's important to recall that the tool is based, or the mathematical step behind the tool is based on the climate risk formula, where the risk is a function of the hazard, the exposure, and the vulnerability. So by combining all of these components, the tool will generate a composite risk score for each scenario. And this will allow us to compare the risk levels before and after the implementation of the solutions. So as we can see here on the top table, we can see that we have higher values in vulnerability and in the impact risk, and they are indicated in red and in yellow, and they represent a medium to higher level of risk. And in contrast, for the post-life table results, we can see how applying those interventions, the values are reduced. So now the most indicators fall in the green range that indicates a low risk. So this visual difference really demonstrates the effectiveness of the proposed solutions, because we can see that the sensitivity is lower and the adaptive capacity is higher. So good, that's what we want to demonstrate. And moving forward, here we have the visual representations of the results. Can you click 3 times? Perfect. So here we have a side-by-side comparison of the sensitivity that we can see that is lower. We can also see a decrease in the vulnerability for both the fire and the flood hazard. And most important, in the medium part of the graph, there is a clear increase in adaptive capacity, mainly in the case of flood-related hazards. In the following graph, here we have a line graph, and this one shows us how the climate risk evolves over the time. So in the pre-life scenario on the left part, the risk levels tends to increase, especially under the long-term projections. But in the post-life scenario, in the right part of on the screen, the risk values remain lower and also more stable. So this indicates that the interventions will help to contain this future risk level. And finally, this is another type of graph that the tool is going to give us. And here we can see also a reduction in vulnerability and an improvement in adaptive capacity, with an increase of more or less 55%, mainly for flood resilience. So all of these results confirm that the applied solutions have had a measurable positive impact. So the next one. Perfect. So this tool wasn't the only one that we developed. We also developed a guide and a vulnerability assessment tool, but focused on the private sector. This has a different approach. This tool is about risk and opportunities. And in this specific context, the risk and opportunities refers now to the potential deviations from expected benefits or changes in the business processes, operations, and investments due to the climate change. So understanding this is essential because the climate change may lead to these future changes. So this tool is going to support the decisions that the owner of the landfill can make to align with these evolving climate policies, the market conditions, and the stakeholder expectations. Next. So the objective in this tool is to identify the physical and the transition climate risk, to recognize the potential opportunities, and to integrate all of this information into the strategic planning and reporting. So moving forward to the first component of the assessment, the physical risk. So these are related to the climate phenomena that can disrupt the operation of the landfill. We have the acute risk and also the chronic risk. So what we should do? First of all, defining the exposed elements that are part of the landfill and are going to be exposed to those climate risks. Second, we should identify the risk that could impact those elements. Then once identified, each risk is going to be or should be characterized by the scope, the temporal horizon, the probability of occurrence, and the magnitude of the impact. And then this would lead to a final risk score. Next. Here we have some examples for the chronic risk, rising temperatures and changes in precipitations. And moving forward, we have some examples for impacts for the acute risk. The next one. For example, for fire and for floods, we have the different areas or activities exposed to these hazards, and we analyze which are the impacts that we can expect. Next one. And here we have a screenshot of the tool with the rating for the risk. Next one. Okay, now we have the transition risk. The transition risks are related to the global shift toward this low carbon or carbon neutral economy, because these changes may affect the policies and regulations, the technology, and also the markets. For example, the R&D investments will need to comply with future standards, and also maybe there is a change in the demand for the waste treatment or transport systems. So for this kind of risk, we are going to analyze the probability of occurrence and also the potential financial, reputational, or operational impact. Next one. And here we also have a screenshot of the tool with the level of impact and probability, and finally the prioritization for this risk. Next one. And finally, we have the opportunities. The opportunities are analyzed with a qualitative perspective, but they are not less important, because the climate change is also going to give us some opportunities, some strategic advantages that may arise for this climate action. For example, the adoption of automation and AI to improve the operational performance, to reduce GHG emissions, the use of renewable electricity, clean vehicles, and the development of the circular solutions. So the opportunities will depend on the region, on the market, and also on the sector, but they can lead to competitive advantages for the organizations that anticipate this change and respond strategically. Next. So while the first tool provides a practical and structured way to assess the climate risk, and it also helps to visualize how the adaptation measures can reduce the vulnerability, this second one was created to identify the risk and opportunities as they may lead to future changes in operation and financial plannings. So to conclude, both of the tools offers a practical and structured method for assessing the climate risk, and by applying them, we are better equipped to identify, to communicate, and to reduce the climate risk, which of course, ultimately strengthen the resilience and support a more informed and forward-looking planning in the sector. Next. Okay.
The presentations were followed by a discussion and a Q&A session where attendees of the workshop were able to exchange ideas with and provide feedback to project innovators. The desired outcome of this session overall was to contribute valuable feedback towards the execution of the project's final innovation workshop to be held in person in October 2025, as well as the further development of project technologies before and after the conclusion of the project at the end of December 2025. Thank you for tuning in to our webinar today.